Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Tech Tuesday. My name is Vanessa with ITS Communications, and today we're going to be talking about Microsoft Power BI. We have two people from the ITS Data and Analytics team. We have Aparna Januthala and Achita Jamwale. They're going to be walking us through Power BI and how it's a powerful tool to create visualizations with data that you may have and don't exactly know what to do with. Before we get started, I just wanted to let everyone know that I am recording today's session. So if you want to go back over it to review anything that we discussed or share it with some of your colleagues who may not have been able to attend today, you will get a follow-up email within about 24 hours with a link to the recording as well as some helpful resources to get you started with Power BI. We are expecting quite a few people to log into today's session. So just to prevent some unintended background noise, we've muted everybody's microphones, but please feel free to ask a question at any time in the chat. Aparna will likely be answering all of your questions today in the chat, but if you'd also like to ask your question on the microphone, you can always use the raise hand tool and we can take you off mic so you can ask your question that way. So without further ado, I am going to hand it off to Aparna. Thanks for being here today.
Hi everyone, thank you so much, Vanessa. So hope you all are doing well and welcome to today's Tech Tuesday session on Power BI. Power BI is the Microsoft tool which is used for visualization. We did few sessions in the past and this is our fourth session. So glad to be back again and hopefully we'll be doing a few more in the coming years. Our team supports Power BI. If anyone has any specific questions or interested to learn more, feel free to reach out to us via email or Teams and we'll get back to you. And today's session, Nichita will be presenting a few insights on Power BI. She will also be doing an interesting use case, so stay tuned for that. So I know there are a few folks on the team, so she will be doing a quick recap as we get started. So I would encourage you all to post your questions in the chat. We'll try our best to get back as soon as possible to them. With that, I will hand over to Nichita.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Aparna. And thank you so much, Vanessa, for having us here today. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to today's Tech Tuesday session on Unlocking Insights Essential Power BI Tips and Tricks. I am Nichita Jamwale with the Data and Analytics team, and I am super excited to show you some cool things with Power BI today. All right, so without any further ado, let's get started and let me show you the topics I'll be covering in today's session. I would be off camera just so that I use my screen space completely. Just give me a minute. Okay. All right. So let's go right in. I will be beginning the session with a quick introduction on what is Power BI, followed by understanding different personas on interacting with the BI reports, and then we'll have a demonstration to understand a use case, and I'll try my best at the end to have some time for the Q&A session. So with that said, what is Power BI? It is a business analytical solution to visualize your data with the data modeling capabilities and then to share it with others. Now, in this, you do have an option to pick multiple data sources where your data has been. It can be an Excel sheet, it could be in a database, or if you have attended Vanessa's last Tech Tuesday session where you have learned how to create a Microsoft list for your task, you can also bring that data in to Power BI and build visuals on top of that to analyze it in a more granular way. So that being said, this has a great user-friendly interface, which is suitable for all technical levels. And if you are just getting started with Power BI and want to learn how would you connect your data and then build a report out of it, I definitely recommend you to check this session here that's in the link, which will give you a step-by-step process on how can you pull in your data, connect, and then build the visuals on top of that. All right, so moving ahead, let's talk about different personas on interacting with the BI report. Think it as two different perspectives on looking at Power BI. Now, the first one is from a consumer perspective. Now, this is where, as a consumer, my main focus would be to interact with all the pre-built reports that are currently available to me without any, in no time, basically. So getting the insights in no time with a minimum technical expertise. So that would be the main focus from a consumer perspective. Whereas if you look at the developer perspective on the flip side, here you would be more focused on performing some data modeling task, data cleaning task, and then creating the visuals on top of it for a better storytelling. So from a developer perspective, your focus is more on creating effective reports and maybe to use some best practices to keep the reports consistent over the organization. That being said, let me take you to demonstrate a use case wearing a developer hat. So now from a developer perspective, I can show you how you would connect the data and then build a report in Power BI. But before that, let me tell you to take a minute, and I want you all to think about few questions. Now, see if you ask these questions to yourself and if you are able to get answers. Like, do you know how active have you been in Teams communications lately? Or do you know which day of the week is the busiest in terms of Teams? Do you know which is the best day for you that you can have some focus time aside on your calendar? Maybe, that day you have some less meetings so you can get some review done or some work done. Or do you know what type of activities do you spend most of your time on? Are those some of it like having customer calls in, or you have a task of reviewing some documents? So do you know how proportionately do you balance your work in day-to-day in a week? So if you are curious to get these answers in, I can help you to find these answers using Power BI. Power BI has come a long way now where you can connect your data to two of the most used apps in the work in day-to-day life. And I'm sure you would agree with me. That is nothing but the Microsoft Outlook and MS Teams. So now if you recall our last session, we have shown the way how you can connect your Outlook data and see the personal productivity metrics on how many meetings have you been on, which day looks more busier, and some of those metrics. But now let's take one step further, where now you can also connect your data to Microsoft Teams and get those productivity metrics in a more granular way, where now you can track the number of chats that you send, the more interaction that you have on Teams, how active have you been on channel, and then which of those channels have you been more active on, some of those additional things. Especially, you can also know how much screen sharing time have you been using in a week. So are you all excited to learn how to connect your Microsoft Teams to Power BI and then answer some of those previously mentioned questions? If so, let me take you directly to the developer mode, and we can try connecting our Teams to Power BI and then try to build these visuals from a developer perspective. So I am here in a developer mode, and I do have a template that is ready. We have ready for this demo session. This is just a pre-built layout that we have available, and let us know, and even you can take advantage of these templates where you have some logo and then few built layouts ready for you to just get started on building the reports. All right, so that being said, let me go to get data and then get the Teams data in here. So let me type in Teams. But before that, just to give you an overview. So these are all the available data sources that you can use in connecting your data to Power BI. For now, let me go to Teams and let me select Microsoft Teams and connect. I will be bypassing this option for now. All right, so in the navigation pane, now we have these three tables that are pulled. And for the demo, I would be looking at the Teams user activity, which is more of giving me the personal productivity metrics from the Teams. Now, just a reminder, I am connecting this to my personal Teams. So that way, when you do it on your end, you will be connecting it to your personal Teams account. And if you see on the right side, you can take a look at, review the data of all the columns that you are pulling. Now, let's click on transform data and then do some transformations before directly jumping into creating some visuals. The first thing I like to do when I'm here is first to review all the columns that are pulled. And after that, to see if there are any columns that you might not be using in creating the visuals, we can just start deleting them. So for example, if you look at the user ID, I don't think I'll be using this for the session. So I click on the column, right click, and then hit remove. So that way I have a cleaner data here before I start building the reports. Now, for the same case, if you have multiple columns that you want to remove at once, you can just hold on a control tab and then click multiple columns. And then you can use this option here on the top that says remove columns, and you can still do that in the one go. I'll skip that for now. And looks like we have everything. So let's just click on close and apply. Few seconds for all the changes that you have made to review there, and we are back. So let's skip the cover page for now. We can always go back and update the cover page, but this is like a preset layout that is available where you can pull in. So let's bring in some data and see how the data looks. So let me start with a date column, and then this third format button you can always use to go back and then change the formatting if needed. So let me get rid of the hierarchy, and then I'm going to pull few more columns like audio time. I'll get the video time and screen sharing for now. Okay, now let me bring in another view just to see my posted messages and reply messages. So this way, you can play around and, build your different visuals from this pane and always change your title and labels accordingly as and when needed. Let me also bring in another card that may give me more information on number of channel messages I have. Let's take the second card to show me the summary of number of one-on-one calls that I have had in using MS Teams, and then maybe some other activities that I've performed. So that way you can, on the top, use these cards to give a summary, and then the bottom ones can be, on a more granular way. Let me go ahead and also add a slicer here on the left side that I can use to slice and dice the report later. So maybe the date column, that way, I can give this to the users to slice and dice the report. So that way, you can play around, always update the title, and you can build your report right here. So just to bypass this for now and for the demo session, I have something I have already started working on with my team's activity channel. So let's complete this by adding one more visual to this. Let me pull in a donut chart and then add my post and reply messages here. All right. So that way, you can rearrange your visuals to the way you want, update it, make sure your labels are in place, and then create your report. On the left side, I've also created some summary cards that gives you, a summary of all your statistical meetings. Now, that being said, now let me take you directly to the final product of how the report would look like once you have cleaned it. So this is where, you see a report with all of my team's activity. And then if you see, I've added a slicer on the left side, so you can see the data for even a specific month. So that would be the data for my month of November. You can see the trend on how I have used my audio time and then screen share time on Teams. So that way you can play around with the dashboard. Now, all of these visuals are interactive, and selecting one would also reflect the data over the other time. There is another tab I've added which gives me more information about my Teams activity. So if you see, this is the list of all the Teams channel that I have access to. So that would be personalized, and when you connect your data, you would see the teams that you are part of as a list. And then few more metrics that I've added to see number of posts, replies, guests, and so on. So that way you can, build your visuals as needed. Just for fun, I have also added a play axis here wherein I do not, if I do not want to change my visuals manually, this play axis will do the work for me. Wherein if I click on the play axis, it automatically shows me the monthly trend without me manually selecting the slicer. For example, now if I click on the play sign, now what you see is the data for the November. That's the trend for December. And then you have January. So that way you can also, add play access as and when needed for different instances and see the trend over time. That's one of the use cases where you can use it. So that way you can, connect your team's data to Power BI, and would be great to see these metrics and then answer some of those questions that I mentioned earlier. Now, just to go to a recap, as what we showed last time was where you connected your Outlook to Power BI and you were getting these metrics, as if you see on the top, that shows the total number of meetings. And by the way, the date range I have selected so far is for the month of January. So you see those are the number of hours I've spent in meetings, number of vacation time in that month, and then number of holidays. And then I have added a table that gives me the list of all the subject lines for all the meetings that I've had. And at the bottom, it's the monthly trend. And if you see 20th, so that day probably is the one where I, had most of the meetings or the most of the work done. So that being said, I can choose maybe the later days or the beginning of the month. I can choose to select as my focus time because I have had some, less meetings in there. So that way you can find some trends, some patterns, and then can also use it to plan your, future week. All right. Let me move ahead to show you some chart suggestions that will be helpful for you while you're deciding which chart to pick. So first, think it as you have your data ready, you have cleaned your data, and now you're starting to prepare some visuals. Think it as this chart will really be helpful for you to get a reference of. The question I want you to ask yourself is, what do I want to show in my visual? Am I showing some comparison? Am I going over any distribution? Or do I have few variables that I want to show a comparison? So basically, this flowchart really helps you in deciding which ways to go. Like if you have two different variables, I believe, scatter plot would really be good to show that relationship between two visuals. Whereas if you want to show that in a more broader perspective, a bubble chart would really be helpful. And because in this, you can also utilize the color codings and then also make it more accessible. Now, some of the other things, like for example, if you look at the bottom visuals are something that you can really use when you have your data where you want to show the metrics over time. So whereas your line chart or stacked column chart, those are the ones when you have, if you see the flow chart, it says when you have few periods, you can use these and so on. And on the top, those are some of the visuals that you can use for comparison. Moving ahead, so these are just the small things to take care of when you are done, building your report. And these are small things that generally we tend to forget, but fixing these will give a great impact on the report. For example, making sure we have all our titles and all our legends synced in a consistent font size and font name. So make sure we are aligned on all of these on every page of the report. Some of the other things like, especially the consistency with colors. We do have some themes that are available. For example, like a Cornell theme, if you're interested to use Cornell themes across the report, that is something you can, make use of. That way you are very consistent with the colors on every page of your report. So definitely reach out to us if you're interested to get more themes. We are also working on having different options of themes, like if not colored, if not cornel colors, then we have some of the earth tone colors where you can use a lighter palette to, build your dashboards. So that would really be good from the best practices standpoint as well when you're rolling these reports on an organizational level. Some of the other things like limiting the white space. So by using the templates, you can make sure you have all your visuals aligned. That way you can, limit on some of that white space in your report to make it more clean and, easily readable. That also I have added all the resources that will be helpful for you to get started in this learning journey. So you have all the templates that are available, which you can use while building your reports, that can save a lot of time in, adjusting when you're just getting started. Here is also a link of some of the fundamental courses that you can take, which are mostly self-paced, that you can, get started with getting familiarizing yourself with the tool and understanding how to slice and dice the dashboard. Now, there is also another link I have added, which I highly recommend everyone to check it out, which is the Power BI quick tips. So these are nothing but, these are a short video clips that are available, which will, help you familiarize with every feature that's available in Power BI. And that being said, as Power BI has increased its frequency for getting the new updates, we are trying our best to keep these tip videos updated. So any new feature you find, we are trying to keep those accessible here. So definitely keep checking these to, get more updates on that. All right, I think from here, I would like to, leave the forum for any Q&A questions you have or any specific topic you want me to go over. I would be happy to assist. Also open up, let me know if, there were any questions in the chat that needs to
So
be
one main thing, we will be sharing all the resources, the links to download Power BI desktop version, and all the resources links that Nichita was just shared. We'll be working with Vanessa to show them.
Yes, I do
And
see somebody has raised their hand. I'm going to unmute you, Jaleel, if you want
Thank
to ask
you.
a question.
Yes, I do. So thank you so much for that. Very useful. I myself am getting more used to like the Power Query portion of Excel. And I noticed that that's how you first started with importing the data. So can we kind of reverse course and go back to that fundamental part of, all right, you have your data and you're extracting it, you want to transform it, then you want to load it, and then the Power Query part. Because I just wanted to really, that's the part that is most important for me. And I wanted to kind of rehash that part. And then, yeah.
Sure. So here, if you click on the transform data, it gets you back to this Power Query where, you can utilize this space for making those transformations to your data. So do you have any specific question on any transformation that you were looking at? But if not, there are a lot of, options here that can be used on making, like adding new columns, merging different columns, basically like data cleaning tasks.
Yeah. In terms of transformations, as like calculated fields, in the Power Query and conditional like columns as well, if you wanted to make like a conditional column. So that would be very helpful.
Yes. So, I mean, with the time, I can show you quickly where those options are available. But if you, look at the Add Column tab, this mainly has all of those different options for you to add the column. For example, as you mentioned, conditional column. So if you click on that, a window pops up, and that's where you can actually build that condition. So, you can say something like if this particular column is equal to a condition, and, let me So if I can say, this column equals to a value, then call it as, space or something. So you can build your own condition right here, and that new column will be connected here at the end. So that way, I have given this condition as if that particular column is 1, then it will return the value as space. So that way, you can, and you have all flexibility to play around with data. Like you can rename this by double clicking on the column name. You can also rename that to like, new field. So that way you can utilize this tab that says add column. And similarly, you have a lot more options as well. We'll definitely try to, because this wasn't a more advanced session, so we didn't, because of time, we're not able to cover, but yeah, this is the tab. You'll have the options to explore here.
I see that Aparna is answering some questions in the
So
chat,
there
so
are
I'm
a few
gonna move.
questions.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
there are a few questions, Nichita. People are asking about how you can import Excel data. Maybe you can quickly show how you can
Sure.
get.
So I am back here to the developer mode. So if you look at the home tab, you have the get data option. So you can click on that. And these are some of those data sources that is available to you. So you can click on Excel workbook and pick the file from your local machine, wherever you have, and click a file, and then just click on open. So that way, the same way we imported our Teams data, you'll be connecting to that Excel sheet. And then you can, so in the same way, you will have the table 1, and then just say transfer.
I see someone with their hand raised. Veronica, give me 1 second. I'm asking you to unmute in Zoom, and you should be able to come off the mic in just a moment.
Sure. So this one, the Excel sheet that I showed, your data will be populated here. And that way you can again use all the different transformation that I mentioned, and then you can hit close and apply, and then start building the visuals based on the data that's in your Excel.
So can I ask a question?
Yeah. Hi, Veronica. How are you?
Hi, everybody. So my question is this: can you walk us maybe through how this would work? Suppose I have information that is coming from, let's say, Grants and Contracts Office once a month, and I want to use that information to create a dashboard that would analyze or allow me to see a view of who on my team submitted these grants, who's managing them. So in other words, I want to take the data that comes from ASRA and I want to merge it with another, table where I keep my assignments for my staff. And my question is this, because I cannot have a continuous link to ASRA, to WRG, it's just security reasons, it's difficult, right? But I can take my report and connect it here. But then that report updates every month. So when should I be overriding the table in the system? For example, should I put it into SharePoint and somehow override data in the SharePoint? Or like, what would be your suggestion to this data updates that are manual?
So Veronica, there are multiple ways to handle that. So always we can, it will be always automated though. And when you say WRG, we can directly connect, get the data, cleanse it for you. There's no need for you to rewrite or change yours. For example, say you have another version of the data sitting on your Excel file on the SharePoint or something. We will make a gateway connection. That refresh will be automated. You can always go and update the data. You can add your rows, your columns and everything. Just ensure the structure of your Excel file or the file whichever we imported into Power BI stays intact. We cannot change the structure. Say tomorrow you want to add few new columns, you always go in and add those columns towards the end of the Excel file. But again, you keep updating the data. We refresh your dashboard every day and you will see the up-to-date information and that. And again, it's not just Excel data. You can import multiple, say your WRG data, BI data, or data sitting in an Excel file. But only one thing want to reiterate. The Excel file that you want to import, always ensure it's on the cloud system somewhere instead of it sitting on your personal machine, because we will have to enable the automated refreshers. So if it is on the SharePoint, we will be able to do the auto refresh for you.
Okay. One question, last question, probably. So it used to be that connecting the our Power BI visuals to institutional data directly, like grants and contracts, for example, or BI reports, took very long time. And so this is why I personally abandoned this whole BI thing several years ago, because it just was not feasible. So is it faster now? Is there a process that allows us to request and then it's reviewed and approved or not approved that goes faster?
We could connect to ERP data. Shouldn't be a problem at all. So in that scenarios, Veronica, we will work very closely with you, where we connect to our ERP systems, we get the data into the Power BI and we hand over the file with you. But like again, we will be working very, like, it will be like hand in hand, like very close work, because if you don't have access to the ERP systems, we will help you get the data. We will share the file with you. You do all your visualizations and everything. At that point, we, the DNA team, will work with you for gateway refreshers or from best practices standpoint, or for how to share the dashboards with end users. We will be working, we'll help you with that. We have rolled out a bunch of dashboards to departments that's connecting to different ERP systems today. And we can work closely with you on your use case too.
I appreciate this, Aparna. I think I will reach out for like one-on-one mentoring with you guys. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll be sure, Veronica, in the follow-up email to include information about how to reach out to the DNA team. And, you can work from there. There have been a few questions in the chat. Aparna, I know you've been
I'll
going.
take the last one.
Yeah, are there? Yeah, I was going to say, please feel free to.
It's the same thing that I just answered to Veronica from Jeffrey. Can we link Power BI financial reports to import active stories from Val Business Gateway BI reports? We have a way. We'll work with you on your use case. We can pull the data from the ERP systems and we can definitely build the visuals on top of it. So the best example is we just went live with the budget report, and it's from data coming from the ERP systems. Very well received. We have got like a lot of good feedback. So we will work with you, Jeffrey, on this one. If you have like particular use case in mind, please feel free to reach out to us. We can work with you. And I see one more question. I think I answered that, but there are different charts there. Like, not just on the screen, what you see on Nijita's screen, those are the default visuals or charts that are available, but we can definitely download. There are hundreds of charts available in the Microsoft Marketplace for free. So we can download them. We can utilize different charts. We can make use of that, like control charts or Pareto charts, anything, we can do that. Nancy, I see one question from Nancy. Can we import any kind of data into Power BI, or does it have to fit into the categories that are on the BI? Nancy, if you don't mind, can you elaborate more what kind of data you're looking at? Or we can connect with you. But again, as I said, we can import data from different data sources. We have a bunch of data sources. I know today we only covered from Excel, from Microsoft Teams, Outlook. We can connect to web, GitHub. There are thousands of different data sources like SQL Server, PostgreSQL Server. We connect to our business warehouse today. We can connect to a bunch of data sources. Nitsa, if you can open the Get Data and just show like different sources there.
Sure.
Yeah, we can connect to all of those.
these are, all the common data sources that are more frequently used. But if you click on the more option, this gives a more broader list of all the platforms that are available for you to connect your data. So these are all the file related sources, and then you have different databases which can be connected directly to pull the data. And some of the online services, like you have some data on your SharePoint link, we can also directly have that connection in place for these. And then here on the right side, if you see, these are all the suggested visuals, but there are more options. So if you click on the get more visuals, there is a more, a bigger list where you can explore with those visuals as well based on the, case by case. So definitely there are a lot more visuals that we can explore.
And there's one more question. Are there, and I answered this question, but just for everyone's reference, are there any premier reports within a department that we can access? Absolutely. We have rolled out few dashboards to the departments, but if you are authorized to have access, you should be able to receive it, or you can talk to the department administrators and let us know. We can work with security to see your access and make those dashboards available to you. Another question from Min. Can you provide general view on what is the best application for Power BI? Not sure I understood the question quite. Min, can you please elaborate on that?
Also, by then I can quickly actually show to the folks here who want to access their reports that you have access to currently. So you can directly log on to app.powerbi.com, and this would be your home page, and you can directly come to the left section, apps. And basically here you will find a list of all the existing reports that you have access to. So if you have access to a particular department report, you should have that available right here. So the list can vary from user to user based on the level of access you have, but that's where you can go ahead and access all the existing reports that are available today. So please do check that out.
So we can take a few more. There's one question from Edgar. Other than no desktop app, can you comment on differences in Power BI between Mac and Windows? So absolutely. So when we evolved, it was a challenge for Mac users, but the Power BI desktop version is only available for the Windows users. But however, recent updates, Mac users can take advantage of creating your own dashboards from Power BI service. I can say there are a few limitations, but it shouldn't stop you, at least from importing your data and building on top of it. So you should be good in that. And we can work with you, Edgar, if you need help with that, how to develop your dashboards from Power BI service. Steve, is it possible you show any AI insights from what you have? We do. I hope we will come back for the next Tech Tuesday session just to talk about AI in Power BI, which we are currently exploring on this one. But you will see something in the near future. We will also present the advanced level, Steve. I know how the bookmarks works, how all those things works, Power Automate. We will be presenting those in the future too. We have several. Definitely we can take it and come back again with this too.
And just to make a note of that, Stephen, I know you mentioned Power Automate. We do plan to have a Power Automate Tech Tuesday session. It's going to be mostly an overview, if you've never used it before. But we do have one in the coming weeks. So please keep an eye on that. As usual, I'll be sure to send out the registration when we're ready to have that session.
And also, I would like to add, Stephen, so feel free to also check out the Power BI quick tip videos because some of those do have, explain step-by-step process on how to maybe, add a bookmark or some of the, intermediate level transformations that you can do in Power BI. So feel free to check that. And we are updating those tips as and when, Power BI get new features. So that's a good place to check as well.
And one last question I see is Power BI can be used for research applications such as genomics data analysis. Absolutely, we can. Power BI can also be used to support statistical analysis, and we can work with you. I think we answered most of them. But again, any questions that we miss, we will be having this chat with us. We will reach out to you all individually. Any final questions, anyone?
Yeah, and for those of you who signed in a little later, we will be sending a follow-up email within the next 24 hours with a link to this recording, as well as some links, helpful guides that Nichita and Aparna are going to be sending me. I'll make sure to forward them all on to you. And just in case you didn't receive it this morning, if you ended up signing up, right before this session started, I did send a link of how to download the Power BI desktop application if you're a Windows user. If you haven't received that, I'll also put that in the follow-up email as well. So you can feel free to install that whenever you have a moment and use some of the techniques that we've been going through today. Are there any other questions? Oh, I think something popped up. Which of those files do we need to download from Veronica? I think, Veronica, if you are following up on the email you sent earlier today of which version of the desktop application you should download, I think, Nichita, you had mentioned that you can check
Yes, so maybe
for
I
system
can respond
preferences, right?
here.
Yeah.
I think for everyone also. So when we shared the link from Microsoft, it will prompt you for two options. You can download the 32-bit or the 64-bit. Simple thing is you go onto your settings, system settings, and check if you are on a 64-bit. If you're on a 64-bit, you have to download the 64-bit Power BI desktop version. Yeah.
But you can check your system type here, and if this is 64-bit operating system, then it would probably be the second option where you can download your Power BI desktop.
I'll be sure to include a link in how you can check which system settings you have for your Windows computer. I think we are just about at time, so I'll start wrapping up. Aparna and Cheetah, are there any other closing comments you want to make about Power BI
No,
before we close up for today?
no, thank you so much for everyone for joining. I know it's your lunchtime. It's appreciate like everyone taking your time away from your lunch and joining us. We will share all the links with you, but again, feel free to reach out to us. We will get back to you as soon as you can.
Awesome. Thank you both so much for teaching us more about Power BI. And thanks to all of you for joining us again. We really appreciate it. There's no Tech Tuesday next week because it is a holiday week, but the week after we will be delving into some project management scheduling, specifically in Excel. So if you're interested in that, I'll put a registration link in the follow-up email and feel free to sign up for that session in the next 2 weeks. So have a good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.